Hallo miteinander, I'm Gish86 and this is the Let's Play Summer Blockbuster. We're playing a real classic this time, a boxing game, Punch-Out. This game, if you ask people about what their favorite boxing game is, most of them will answer this game. You may be wondering why is that. I mean, Punch-Out, it's so cartoony, so goofy, it's got all these offensive racial stereotypes. And that is one of the reasons. People love that. They sometimes don't like to admit they do, but they do. But that's not all. This game is very different from most boxing games. It doesn't feel at all like a one-on-one fighter, like a brawler. It is much more an arcade game about memorization and pattern recognition. I've played other boxing games with the time, and I have to say, those games are much more about attacking. For example, I've played Ring King. In case you don't know what that one is anymore, that's the one where you're given head by your corner crew between rounds. Yeah, that one. But this game is much more about defense, about dodging, about watching and understanding your enemies. Enemies don't get really much different stat-wise, but well, they do get a little bit different, but every single opponent is very unique in how they act. And in the next fight we will be able to see that, because Kaiser is very different than Glass Joe. There are some interesting mechanics in Punch-Out. For example, you have a stamina meter, symbolized by those hearts. If you get hit too often, or if your shots are blocked too often, you won't be able to attack until you've dodged a few of your enemy's shots. So don't knock yourself out on attacking, quite literally. But there's also star punching. You collect a star by interrupting an opponent's attack before they're actually able to hit you with it. You can do that on Kaiser, but in the first part of the fight it's not easy to do, but when he crouches down I like to get some. A star punch can knock down Kaiser as long as he's stunned in one hit, and that's pretty much the pattern of Kaiser, and pretty much all enemy patterns are very different. Sometimes you have to do very unusual things. Absolutely. This game is actually not the first game in the series. Nowadays, the Punch-Out franchise has been revived with the PunchOut Wii, but before this game there were actually two arcade games, and after this one there was also Super Punch-Out on the Super Nintendo. The arcade games are much more like Super Punch-Out, but I think most people actually consider this one the most classic, the best game of the series. I think to prove that you kind of just have to look at Punch-Out Wii. It's much more like this game. It's actually not all that much like Super Punch-Out. Super Punch-Out is a good game, definitely. I also prefer the NES original, because Super Punch-Out, what's really weird about that game is that the speedrun tactics for enemies are really, really weird. They are really cryptic, and they will look just like random punching. You can defeat enemies in that one in like 10 seconds, and you do it by, for example, doing a left hook at 154, then a right uppercut at 327. And at 5:51 you must solve world hunger and unclog my grandma's toilet at the same time. And by doing that you win. Yeah, try figure that out. I dare you. African American person stole my bike. 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 You knew that had to come at some point. Everyone knows that little in-joke. But that was my take of it. This screen basically is actually just to display your password. Punch-Out is a difficult game. You're going to need those passwords to beat it, because you only have 3 lives to get through this game. If you lose all these 3 fights, you go back to the title screen and you will have to input that password. But that's actually not all. Even if you just lose a fight, you might actually be ranked down and you will have to fight an opponent that you've already beaten. So that's especially frustrating if that opponent that you beat previously was very tough. Luckily, Don Flamenco here is not very tough. To me, he's the weakest fighter in the game, even more than Glass Joe, because if you just stun lock him by alternating between left and right jabs to the face quickly and in the right rhythm, he will not recover at all. And if you do it quick enough, he will even stay down on the second knockdown. Of course, the fights that follow this one are gonna be much tougher, but I think that's for the better. If this game wasn't as challenging as it was, people wouldn't care about it so much. Definitely. Now, King Hippo here is pretty much the first fight where newbies will be really confused. It is very different actually from all the fights before, and one of the most iconic fights in the whole game. Dodging and countering does not work against King Hippo. What you have to do, as you see, as soon as he opens his mouth, you can hit him and then unleash a furious barrage of punches on his belly. And that's how you deal damage. He was in the Captain N cartoon, wasn't he? Didn't ever really see much of that one. It was on really early in the morning, I think, like they didn't even want anyone to see that show. It was like 3 AM. If you tune in 10 minutes early, you would like still see the sex hotline commercials. Yes, as a little kid. Well, you could always ask your dad to record it on the VCR, but he would be like, "Captain N, isn't that like the show where they worship the devil? Go play some football." But nonetheless, King Hippo was easily defeated. Once you know what to do, he is pretty easy. But Great Tiger here, he gave me a lot of trouble when I was still new to this game. He fights mostly like a beefed up version of Von Kaiser. But he is different. He knows magic. He is the son of a magician, yes. We are having magic in a boxing match. That is Punch-Out for you. You think that's weird? You should really see Super Punch-Out if you don't know it yet. Some of the things in that game, like there's a guy who can kick you, yes, in a boxing match, and another one like brings a stick to the fight. Yes, he whacks you with a stick during a boxing match. You know, with that game, I wouldn't have been surprised if someone just whipped out a gun and blew Little Mac's brains out. He probably would have won for doing that too, you know it. But we are not playing Super Punch-Out. This game, even though it's pretty wacky, is not that far out. You will see that magic move right here. It is one of the few attacks that you actually have to block in the game. Blocking, not used very often. There is actually a ducking move that is never required in the game, but blocking is also only sometimes useful, because even when blocking you will lose a bit of health and hearts. We will see another attack later that where you pretty much have to block to avoid damage. But now it's the Major Circuit title bout, and pretty much the most sensitive spot in the run for me. This guy, Bald Bull, you can fight him mostly vanilla style, dodging, countering. His attacks are a little bit tricky, especially his hooks. He makes you like twitch a little with his movement. It makes you a little bit nervous. After 3 hooks, he will throw 2 very quick uppercuts. You've got to be ready for those, or else they will hit you pretty bad. Bald Bull does a lot of damage, so there's not a lot of room for error in this one. But if you know him well, you can deal damage quickly. he's not the most durable enemy. However, he does have one other special thing about him, and that will come later, his famous bull charge. And that one, that is a really nerve-wracking attack. You're gonna see what I mean. You know, if Bald Bull actually defeats you, he will gloat over you with this really awkward NES laughter. I think it was reused in Zelda 2 when you game overed. So, in a second he should use his bull charge. The thing is, that bull charge, if you don't do what is meant, it is a one-hit knockdown. On the third hop, you've got to do a belly punch, and then you beat him down. Really, that messed up my run several times, because if you mess up a bull charge, you pretty much can't end the fight in round 1 anymore. The timing of the bull charge is also really tight. We're talking about milliseconds. And once again, our bike is still in possession of Doc Lewis. Man, can you imagine if they made a Punch-Out movie? And it would be about this. Doc Lewis would be holding Little Mac's bike hostage, and he would force him to fight for him, to achieve his dreams that he could not when he was young. On the outside it would be a hearty friendship, but on the inside it would be torture on the mind. Yes, Punch-Out, a psychological thriller. Do it. Do it now. I tell you, highest grossing movie of all time, 20 Oscars. I guarantee it. But aside from this vision, we are once again fighting Piston Honda. I haven't really said much about him because in his first fight, because I knew we would fight him again. He has a little quirk to him. He twitches his eyebrows before he throws a jab. That's pretty much your cue for getting a star punch. Apart from that, his Honda Rush and pretty much all his attacks are more dangerous, more come in quicker, so he's pretty tough. Definitely pretty tough. He's a pretty blatant Japanese stereotype. In the Wii version, he is also, and he like bows to you in the mid-fight, and if you punch him, sushi comes out of him like he's a human piñata. It's pretty crazy. In this one, he's not so depicted so bad, but sometimes between rounds he will utter just Japanese words completely out of context, because that's how people communicate over there. Totally. Oh, ouch! That's our first knockdown. Depending on when you get up, you get more or less health, I heard, but everyone I see just gets up as quick as they can. Mac will actually stay down on the third knockdown even if it's not in the same round. So, not a lot of room for error. Here's where we can get our secret achievement. Only a select few will know this trick. That's of course tapping the select button to regenerate health during rounds. The other achievements, let's not go over them in detail. Let's just say that they were kind of negligible. If you play somewhat good, you have to get them. But back to Piston Honda. He really gave me a lot of trouble. That's the Honda Rush that you pretty much have to block at this point in the game. In the first fight you could easily counter it, and for an instant knockdown. It doesn't work so well this time. And we put him down. When I see that opponent on the ground like there, I'm like reminded of that one time in high school when I got into a fight. It was not pretty. I lost that one. The punches came so hard, so quick, I really didn't have any chance to react. And when I was lying in a pool of my own blood, I had learned a valuable lesson. Never tell a girl that she is too old to play with Barbie. Never do that. He stayed down this time. That really surprised me. That was only the third knockdown in the fight. Well, I guess that sometimes happens. I'm not complaining. That's pretty much it for the run, actually. Soda Popinski defeats me 9 times out of 10, and we're at 50 minutes pretty much, so we will stop here. I'm Gish86, this was the Let's Play Summer Blockbuster with Punch-Out in week 3. Bis bald!